So basically, when I was studying, I was basically a bookworm and I would only focus on grades. So my only purpose in life was to top the class. That was my purpose in life. My grandfather was an IITian, so he expected me to become an engineer. And you know how it used to be in those days. And therefore, I started and I went on to become an engineer. Now, when I started studying engineering, it was like torture, because I was a very creative person who used to write, and I was interested in language, literature, and all of that. But I got into engineering. Now, that's how I think a lot of things happen when we don't have clarity in our lives. After I kind of finished my engineering, I started to kind of work, and then I went on to do my MBA. And in my MBA course at IIM Bangalore, I got exposed to psychology and theater, and that really started to change the way I was thinking. Now, I was a poet, basically a closet poet as a kid, so I used to write poetry even as a small kid. But I was very fearful that that maybe this is not something that I can make into a career. And so I just in some ways I just closed this part of me into a into the basement of my building, and I never went there. I only kind of wrote when I felt not very happy with my life or whatever, so as an outlet primarily. And then I worked for around 16 years as a software engineer, and the typical stuff that engineers do. We used to just do copy paste most of the time. And then once while I was working, I attended a training workshop on creativity. And then I started to realize that, as a kid, I was so creative. And by the time I had reached, around 30 years of age, I had already lost my creativity. And that is why these training programs are created by corporates, which basically say, how can you think out of the box? So first they put you in the box, and then they want you to think out of the box. And that's our system, and that's the assembly line that we have created, I think, in our education system, and all of that. And obviously there is a lot of pressure, because if you come from a middle class family, then you want to do those things to succeed in life, and money becomes very, very important. So I worked for around 15, 16 years, and I was able to kind of move into leadership roles. But then I started to pursue psychology for 4, 5 years. I started to kind of really study psychology. And as I did that more, I realized that, I did not have a great childhood. So, essentially I was a broken individual inside, and trying to kind of find my space in the world by being somebody who I was not. And, our system is so amazing that it gives opportunities for broken people to show that we are amazing. It's very easy. You just buy a big car, and you have a good job, and essentially you tell people where you went for a vacation, and essentially, you feel very good about yourself by making others feel horrible. That's that is what. And I was stuck in this racket for a long time. And then one day, after working for say 15, 16 years, I just thought, this is enough of nonsense that I've done in my life. I just have to quit now. At that point, my son was 7, 8 years of age, and I used to feel very bad that he used to go in a school and then a daycare, and it was a typical metro life where my wife was also working, I was working, and I would feel very guilty of doing what I was doing. And obviously there was money there, and you had to choose between the two. So I made a choice, and I quit my job. I said, look, I'm going to pick up and drop my son at least. I'm not going to send him to a daycare. So I quit. And but the strange part that happened after I quit was I didn't know what to do, because the way the system was, and the way I had learned. So I just learned how to beat others. I was hyper competitive. I could get great grades. I could fool anybody. Whatever I was doing, I could get ahead of other people. And that happened for so many years that just became me, and that was not me. So I started to kind of do some businesses. I did a few startups. It didn't work. And then after almost 2 years of this struggle, I thought, what am I doing? What is it that I really like to do? And so I just thought about it. And one fine day, the answer I got was, I like to write, as a kid. So that's it. I just started to write. And so I started with a couple of hours a day, and I slowly increased it to 2, 3, 4, 5, and slowly ramped it up to around 12 hours a day. And I started writing stories, and these were stories from my childhood, from my work experience, things which I could not speak about when I was part of the system, and now I could because I was out of the system. And that's it. And those stories started going viral, and within 2, 3 months I was hitting a few million views. And then I started getting a lot of people writing to me. I remember a lady wrote to me how she was being abused by her brother, and when she went and told her parents, they told her that, what are you saying? It cannot be. There's something wrong with you. I got an email from a lady in Kolkata who said that she's physically beaten by her mother in front of her 10-year-old. And like this, people started to reach out to me because I would just share whatever I felt, in that moment. I was like just being myself, the honest person, and I had kind of removed all my layers of showing that I was amazing, which I was very good at. And as this happened, I started to kind of realize that there's a beautiful part of life where you could connect with people so beautifully by just being yourself, and which is something which we are not taught in school. You just have to put a farce, a face which is not yours, and just as long as the face appeals to the other person, it's great. So this is how I kind of now, why I shared this is because, when my son, I know 3 years back, my son told me 4 years back that, Dad, don't expect me to spend my life in a cubicle like you. And he was a 10-year-old that time, and I was like really shocked and surprised. And recently, he's 14 now. Recently, he told me that, look, I said, how are you finding things? How is your life? He says, I'm very happy that I am not working. So, because he's seen us working so hard, and I don't know for what, really, you're just working for somebody, something. And so I think the other part I wanted to share here is that for creativity to come, I mean, there are two mindsets. There is a consumer mindset and there is a creator mindset. A consumer is a person who consumes, materialism as well as thoughts. Now, thoughts are more harmful than materialism because they confuse you, and I think George was mentioning about it, but if people who are very brilliant or very intelligent, it starts to play, their brain starts to play with them, and it becomes extremely difficult for them to manage their intelligence. And this is not taught in our schools. How do you manage your mind? Right? It's a very, very basic thing, but it's not taught in schools. And so when you're consuming stuff, thoughts, material goods, you start to lose creativity. Creativity happens only when, the mind's empty. It has that space to create. When you don't have any thought in your head, that's the space where you will be able to create amazing things. And now my best, I write full time, and now my best writing comes in between 3 to 4 a.m. in the morning. That's the time when, your mind's, it's outside, it's completely silent, but the best part is inside is also silent. And writing is, I think George also mentioned, I think somebody mentioned about writing and listening, and I think it was Sarvesh probably. I think one of the things about writing is it's so powerful that it helps you empty your mind. If you're confused in your life, you just have to go and write down what you're confused about. In fact, this is a very simple activity that I do now. For 7 days, if you can just write down, if you start from today and the same day of the week after 7 days, if you can just write down every single time you get a negative thought, just do it. Put down negative thoughts every single time. Actually, you don't even have to put negative thoughts. You just have to put thoughts, because mostly what I've realized is all our thoughts are negative. Most of the time, there's nothing positive that comes out of thoughts. So if you put that down for 7 days and then you make a book out of it, the mind can't fool you anymore. The other strange part that I found is that we are not able to distinguish ourselves from our mind. There's mind, there's body, and there's soul. Most of the time we are all running with our mind or feeling with our hearts, but we don't know who the soul is. we don't know the person who can observe all of this is the true self that we have. And if we can get and connect with the true self, that's when we are able to become very creative. Now, creativity also comes through spending time with yourself. Now, in today's age, because of all the social media, there is no time people can spend with themselves. We just have to keep doing something. We are unable to just sit and do nothing. I mean, it's very strange because I started my, my startups of 5, 6 years back, and that time there was a lot of struggle, and I think Venkatesh you would relate to it. But I used to work for 18 hours a day trying to build my startup. Uh, Now I don't, like today, for example, I had not much work to do, and I was very restless because I started to ask my other co-founder that, look, what is happening? Is it our business is not doing well? Because that restlessness, I think, has come from childhood only, because we have been taught to always be in action and to do something. And that really erodes our creativity, because we can't become creative if we are not in a very nice and calm space in our heads. So I think that now on the career part, I'll quickly kind of touch upon the career and then move it forward. Um, I've been coaching a lot of people on careers, and in the lockdown, I've coached 5,000 people. And what I found is it's very interesting. I'll share one story of this. This was, in fact, this was a little before the lockdown. But one of my friends, he said that his son has, given this competitive exam, and he's given three of them. He was a school topper. He gave three of the exams, and he flunked all the three exams. So the IIT exam and the couple of other exams that come in. So I said, okay, fine. Why don't you get him over and let me just have a chat with him? So he came, and we were having a cup of coffee. So I said, look, give me some time with your son alone. So he agreed, and I just started chatting with the son, and I asked him what's happening what is really happening, and he shared that that the moment he started the IIT paper, he said the first question, the pattern was a little different. He got stuck, and then he started to panic. And that really, and I asked him, do you feel pressurized? He says, yes, my father is an engineer from a good college. And he obviously keeps asking me every time that you are definitely going to go through IIT. And he flunked that exam, and the next exam, and the next exam. So 3 exams in a row, he flunked them. And this guy, everybody in this locality, in his school, had said he's going to get land a seat in this best college or whatever. And so I asked him, I said, what happens to you? He says, I get very pressurized by it. So I asked him, what is your hobby? And he said, I like to play guitar. I said, why don't you, before the next exam, just play your guitar and don't study for the next 3, 4 days? And he kind of, and I told him that I give him some techniques on the mind side, how to stop the chatter in his head. And then I went to his father and I said, look, I don't think he needs counseling, you need counseling. So you need to let him be. And it's very interesting that this guy, the next exam he gave, he actually got a top rank in that, and he's just got a final placement offer from I think one of the big firms. I think it's Google, or another one of them. And I just realized, that made me realize that, look, it's us putting pressure on the head, on the kids, than anything else. In terms of careers, there are a lot of options now available for kids. The traditional options are all gone now. It's very, very common for kids to get into unconventional careers. It's very easy now. You can start writing on any platform and you can become a blogger. The freelance economy, the gig economy, India has the second largest gig economy in the world today. After the US, India is number 2. There are millions of gig workers who are freelancing and working. So, and they are all obviously experiencing life in a different way. They want to travel, they want to see things. That is definitely possible now. And I think the traditional careers are over. Interestingly, I must share with you, one of my friends, her daughter, she got into, mental health issues, drugs and other things. And she took a break from her education after the 10th grade. Now, the interesting thing happened that the mother was obviously very, nervous about what's going to happen. Her career is over now. She can't study or whatever. She went to a rehab center. She got rehabilitated. And within a year's time, this girl has started to she started working. From 11th grade, she was freelancing, started to do filmmaking, and now she's creating a movie. already she is, she's in the 11th grade, but she's also already 3-4 years ahead of her peers. So this traditional system of you have to study and then go to college and all of that, I think that's all, it's a thing of the past now. Yes, we would obviously want our kids to study, but I don't think, that's the only way to do it. I think there are better ways to kind of pursue, other things. Clarity for creativity, I would say, is the most important. And our system makes people think too much. And we obviously keep overthinking. Thinking to doing is the biggest challenge for the next generation and the current generation. We think amazing things, but we're not able to put them into action.